guys, so the other day I was thinking about what I know about reptiles now versus what I knew when I got my very first reptile. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do a video about 10 cool facts that I've learned about reptiles while keeping them. And I'm not talking about care or anything like that, just facts that I remember being genuinely surprised by as I was keeping reptiles and finding these things out. So I hope you enjoy. Two different reptiles of the exact same type can have completely different personalities. I know this seems like a no-brainer now, but growing up when the only thing that was okay was cats and dogs, I always just assumed that all snakes were bad and all lizards bit people. But having multiple ball pythons now, I know that this guy is the nicest guy in the entire world, and my husband's snake, Sylvanas, is so mean. She absolutely hates me. If my husband was just holding her and I go to hold her, her whole body tenses up. But after having Sylvanas, I was really worried about getting a second snake because I thought that the second one would be just as mean as the first one. And it turns out that Sterling is the nicest snake in the entire world. Speaking of personalities, Percy's personality has changed drastically as she's gotten older. When she was a baby, she was scared of everything. If you walked in a room and she was out, she would run and hide. Now, when I put my hand in the tank to feed her at night, she will crawl into my hand because she wants out and she wants attention. Reptiles can be picky eaters. This one especially surprised me about Zaz because right after I got her and I was doing research, I read nothing but their garbage dumps, basically. So it really surprised me that she'll go through phases where she only wants to eat crickets or only wants to eat hornworms, and she just gets really picky sometimes. Speaking of picky eaters, Dexter will only eat the Pangea food out of the red pouch, and he also refuses to eat any kind of insects lately. Reptiles can change color. I always knew that chameleons, of course, could change colors, but other reptiles change color as well. Over the course of their lives, leopard geckos, gargoyle geckos, and crested geckos will all change their colors, sometimes drastically. You can see a picture here of Percy when I first got her as a baby versus what she looks like now. And this is Zaz when I got her as a baby, and this is what she looks like now. So there's a lot of color change that goes on with these guys. Even in the short amount of time that I've had Goliath, he's gone from being basically white to a light brown green color and then a dark brown with a almost red brick stripe down his back when he's fired up. Other than color progression, Zaz will actually change colors on a regular basis. When she's outside in the sun, she turns really dark just so that she can soak up those sun rays, and when she is in the house relaxing or when she's asleep, she's almost white. She becomes so light, and the orange in her cheeks really stand out. Sylvanas, when we first got her, was so bright yellow. She's still, I think, pretty yellow for a pastel ball python, but she has dulled out a little bit. But I've seen pastel ball pythons go from bright yellow to almost looking like just normal ball pythons. That's actually one of my favorite parts about having reptiles, is not knowing what they're going to look like when they get older. Some species of reptiles actually have a third eye, which is also called a parietal eye, and it's right here on the top of her head, and it actually helps in the wild. It helps them sense light changes like day and night, and if there's prey overhead, they can see that light change. And that's why sometimes if you reach into your reptile's tank, they'll kind of duck and look up because they can see that light change, and in the wild that would mean that a bird's coming. Some snakes give birth to live young. I always thought that snake just meant that they laid eggs, but I guess only 70% of snakes actually lay eggs. The other 30% have live births, like boas, rattlesnakes, and garter snakes, which I thought was really cool. I remember scrolling through one of my reptile pages on Facebook and seeing a video someone posted of a snake having live young, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. Ball pythons, of course, lay eggs though. Not this guy because he is a boy, but ball pythons do. I don't have a turtle to hold for this part, but turtles can actually fill their shells. I always just assumed that since it was a hard bony structure on their back that they couldn't feel it, but they actually do have nerve endings in their shells. They just don't have pain receptors. So if you scratch a turtle on the back, they actually can feel it, and some really enjoy being scratched on the back. Some geckos actually can't regrow their tails. Crested geckos are one of those geckos, which I remember it being very surprising to me because I was always told in school that one characteristic of a gecko was that they regrow their tail, and cresties cannot. While some geckos do regrow their tails, leopard geckos' tails actually look really bulbous when they grow back. They don't look like their original tails. Another thing that I was told was that geckos' tails will fall off if you pull on them, but some species, such as crested geckos, can drop their tail at will. Bearded dragons actually produce venom. It's a very mild venom, and it doesn't hurt humans or mammals or basically anything, but they do produce venom. Scientists think that in the wild a long time ago it was used to help them hunt and kill bigger prey items, but now it doesn't really do anything, but it's there. Reptiles shed in all different ways. I just always assumed that when you see a snake shed, that was just the norm for reptiles. To shed in one big piece like that, and then you take it out of the tank, but they actually all shed differently. Bearded dragons, for example, will shed in spots, so they'll shed a leg, and then their head, and then their body. Crested geckos shed, and then they immediately eat it. So I've never actually seen my crested geckos shed, but I know that they do because they're getting bigger. Leopard geckos will shed sometimes all in one piece, sometimes in spots, but they also eat their shed. And snakes can have healthy sheds and unhealthy sheds. So in an unhealthy shed, they'll shed in little pieces and it'll be really hard to get off. And in a healthy shed, it'll all come off in one piece. They also can shed their eye caps, and they do shed their eye caps. If those eye caps don't come off, they can get eye infections, which I never knew that either. This last one may sound super cheesy, but reptiles are amazing. Like I said before, I grew up in a house where you don't touch snakes, all snakes are poisonous, and frogs will pee on you and give you warts, which the snake thing I completely understand. I live in the South. There are a lot of very poisonous, venomous snakes here, and you don't want your child to bring a rattlesnake into your house. But just growing up around that, I was always so scared of snakes. I brought frogs and lizards in the house all the time, and my mom hated it. But the snakes I was always scared of, and I'm so glad that I got out of my comfort zone and got one because these things are amazing. And I never could have imagined that I'd be outside with my bearded dragon letting her get some extra sun. YouTube channels like Brian Barczyk's at Snake Bites TV really helped a lot with that, because you get to see other people handle these animals that you thought were so terrible, and you see that they're not so bad after all, and they're actually pretty cool. So that's it. Some of you guys probably already knew a lot of these things, but I just wanted to make a video about things that really surprised me as I was keeping reptiles and I was finding out these really cool facts. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.